Hey everyone, in this video we're going to see how to create a simple 3D page in After Effects. First, I designed this simple page in Photoshop, which looks like Reminder app in macOS. Then I exported separate layers as PNG files and imported them in After Effects, which I will show you in a second. You can also make this entirely in After Effects, but it's easier in Photoshop. Okay, this is my composition settings in After Effects. I added 3 layers from Photoshop into After Effects. First of all, the reminder layer. I make it bigger to fit the screen. And I want it to be 3D. Next, I add the reminders rectangle. I want to scale this up too, but I don't make this 3D right now, because I want to add a text to it. And when I added the text, I make them both together 3D. Next, I add the add button and also scale this up. And finally, I add the mouse icon, which you can download from any website you want. It's too big, so I make this smaller, and I want it to be below the add button because first it's going to click on that button. Let's also make these layers 3D. Now I want to add a text to this reminder field. It can be anything. For example, remind me to buy milk. Now let's center this vertically. Now I want to add a weighting for the text sign. I don't know what it's called, but it's very simple to make this. Just draw a little line with pen tool. Now this reminder field is completed and I want to put them together in a group. And now I make this layer 3D. Now it's time to add the camera. I will use a 1-knot camera in this project. I want to look at this page sideways, so I change the rotation. As you can see, right now everything is flat. To change that, we should change the position of the Z angle. I start with the add button. I want it to come out of the page. Right click on the position and separate the dimensions. I set a keyframe at the beginning, and after 1 second I want it to come out. So I change the Z position. But now it looks like the button is below the page. So I change the Y position. And that's why we should separate dimensions before we start changing the position. My computer is a little slow, so I changed the resolution to third, and now you can see how the add button comes up. The movement is not smooth, so to make that right, we should use speed graph. I want it to start fast and end slow. Now it's time to change the position of the mouse icon. Here it's not necessary to separate dimensions. The Z position of the add button was -55, and the mouse icon is going to be on top of that, so it should be more negative. The more the negativity, the closer the subject is to camera. I set a keyframe at about 1 second, and about half a second later I want it to be on top of add button. Now it looks good, and to make the movement perfect, I use a speed graph. I think the mouse starts moving a little late, so I select both of my keyframes and move them. To demonstrate clicking on the add button, we can scale down and again up the icon. Now it's time to work on text layer. Once again, separate dimensions and first set the Z position. First, I want to move it out of the frame. I want it to come down when I click on the add button. I can see when I have clicked on the button in timeline, and from there I set a keyframe. And about 1 second later, I want it to come down. Again, I use speed graph to make the movement smoother. I want to move the camera just a little bit lower to center our page. Now I want to create a simple white background. To do that, right-click and click on New Solid. After the text layer comes down, I want to move the mouse icon and click on the reminder field. And using the speed graph, I make the movement smoother. Once again, to demonstrate the clicking effect, I scale the icon down and up. I copy all the keyframes from before and paste them all here. Now let's go inside the text layer by double-clicking on it. Before clicking happens, there should be nothing on the reminder field. So I make the opacity of this little line 0, and I want it to blink until we start typing. So I make the opacity 100% a couple of frames later, and repeat this action a few times. this should blink a couple of more times, so I do the same thing once again. I think now it looks fine. At the last blink, we should start typing. From the Effects and Presets panel, select Typewriter effect and drag it on top of text layer. Go to Range Selector and animate the text. Right now the typing is a little slow and I want it to end after about 1 second. Yeah, that looks fine. That's it for the text layer. Now let's get back to our composition. Our page still doesn't have the depth we want, and that's because we don't have a lighting source. So go to Layer and add a new light. For this project, I want to add a spotlight. Now everything is messed up and first we should make these right. I changed the position of the light just a little bit. The light has affected all of our 3D layers. So I start changing things from our bottom layer, which is the reminder layer. Every 3D layer has a material option, and from here we can change how the light affects on our layer. I don't want my reminder layer accept lights, so I change this to off. And I want it to accept shadows, but I don't want it to cast shadows. Next one is the add button. I want this button to cast shadows on the reminder layer. I want it to accept shadows from the mouse icon and I don't want it to accept lights. I do the same things for mouse icon and the text layer. Now we can see the shadow of the text layer but not the shadow of the add button. So we should change the spotlight's settings. Let's change the light to point light. Right now the shadows are too dark, so I change the shadow darkness and also the shadow diffusion. You can change other settings too, but for me, changing these two values is sufficient. Right now our animation looks like this, but I also want to move the camera. Hit P on your keyboard to bring on position and R to bring on rotation. I want the camera to look at the page from this angle until the mouse icon goes on top of the text layer. So I set a keyframe then for Y rotation, and now I want the camera to rotate and look at the page directly. So I change the value of the Y rotation to 0 exactly when the reminder starts typing. The page is not centered right now, so I set keyframes for position 2 and change the position. It's easier to change the position from the front view. Let's do that. Now the animation looks like this. The camera's angle doesn't change smoothly, so let's make that right in SpeedGraph. The keyframes of position and rotation should be almost identical, or else it would not look good. Now the animation looks like this. The second clicking effect of the mouse icon comes a little late, so I fixed that. Now it looks better. After the typing finishes, I want to click on the text layer once more. So I copy and paste the scale keyframes of the mouse icon. When I click on the text layer should go back and stick to the reminder page. So I set the keyframe for the Z position, and about 1 second later I make it 0. Also, don't forget to use SpeedGraph. I forgot to change the position of the add button like I did with the text layer. I should change the Z position from -55 to 0 when the mouse clicks on the add button. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Like if it was useful and subscribe to see more.